Okay, this short video is to highlight the radio head control panel in the S76 that we currently fly. The ones that concern you are the 4 in the back here. And they're all mounted inside the window compartment in each seat, forward and rear facing seat. Basically does, it's a satellite location for someone in back to control the radios that are up front that the pilots use. They're the exact same head unit that the pilot looks at. There's literally no difference. So you could potentially talk to Cleveland Hopkins Tower back here if you felt like it. But most commonly what you'll be doing is talking to our communications department or fire departments on the ground, sending report, etc. So this is the configuration that you want to see when you walk up to it. It won't be in this configuration. Everybody's elbows hits this, the water bottles hit it, they stuff their jackets there when it gets too hot in the afternoon. Pops buttons and it turns buttons for everybody. So what we'll do is we'll cover each row on this panel and kind of go over what it should look like when you get in and some of the features of it. The first row we're going to talk about is this bottom row. It's the easiest row to understand because we don't have to use it at all. It's a navigational radio receiver, so it's all of our ground-based navigational aids to help us fly in the clouds IMC, beacons and distance measuring equipment that the pilots will use up front. So when you get in the aircraft, every single one of these buttons in the bottom should be turned counterclockwise all the way, and it doesn't matter, but you can have them all pushed in the down position. This last one on the end is a marker beacon. It's just the sensitivity of how loud it's going to be in your headset. That could be up or down, doesn't matter. Those are all turned down, you're not going to hear anything. The next row is the top row. As you can see, there's 6 kind of glass buttons here that you can push in and out. Only one can be pushed down at a time. When it does get pushed down, you can see a little green piece of plastic shows itself, telling you that's the channel that's currently going through your headset. So in this configuration, we have the aux button pushed down, and that's kind of the only one you guys would really ever be expected to use if calling report through our comms or anybody on the ground. That's going to run our Marks radio. The other one, if the Marks is down, is this TFM. That's a high frequency radio we have up front that also serves the same purpose. The first 2 glass buttons are for air traffic control frequencies. Commonly, the pilots will have ATC in the COM 1, and in COM 2, they'll hold that slot for helicopter air-to-air communications. The next and most important button that you'll ever hear us talk about on this panel is the hot button. Okay, so it's this volume-looking knob here that's sticking out. You can actually see the word hot written right there. So once we say someone has a hot mic, it just means that aircraft noise, your breathing, other background noise is being picked up in your mic boom on your helmet, and it's too hot. It's actually triggering the intercom system, so now we're hearing basically your thoughts at that point, everything. Transmission noise, breathing, chewing gum. We're saying you're too hot. Now in the front, it becomes unbearable and distracting when we're trying to listen to these important frequencies and we hear somebody breathing back here. So we say somebody in the back is hot. And all that means is, for whatever situation, there's no perfect setting of this knob, but the closer it is to that word, this arrow is to that word hot, the more it's going to pick up in your microphone. So if we say someone's hot, your first glance is this top button here, and if you blow into your mic and it seems like it picks it up very quickly, with a lot of sensitivity, it might be you. So you're just going to turn that one clockwise. A good place to start with your helmet is just facing directly out of the aircraft. If it starts to get too far away from the hot, you're going to blow into your mic and you won't hear anything. It actually gates your microphone completely off at that point. So if anything above probably the 3 o'clock position, you're actually going to have to really yell to get the microphone to pick up your voice. So a good spot to start would be at the 12 o'clock position. And as they complain more and more up front about how hot the back is, continue to turn that away. Now every helmet's different. Some people wear personal headsets, some people have like the worst helmet that we can provide for you. So that setting isn't going to be the same every day, but start every morning with it facing directly out of the aircraft. It's a good starting point. This next button on the top row is for the foot switch. So up front we have foot switches that we use the radios with. We don't have to use our handheld back here. If we wanted to use our button that's on the cyclic control, we can switch this from foot to just regular talking. So it also serves back here if this is fully down, you won't be able to freely talk. You'll have to use your press button. So just leave it in the configuration it's at, don't touch it, which is out. And the last row we'll talk about is the middle. Pretty self-explanatory, but this is just all the volume of every one of these radio frequencies. So radio receive, this is just the volume. They go up and down just for convenience of turning that post, so it doesn't matter if they're up and down, but I like to leave the ones I commonly use up so I can quickly grab them and adjust the volume if someone's coming in weak. Overall volume is the next two, and the first one is ICS, so that's the one you're most commonly going to be concerned with because that's how you're going to hear your teammates in the back. You're also going to want to turn down the radio if you're trying to do patient care and all you can hear is ATC or the pilot's talking to ATC. This turns down all of these radio stations together. This turns down all of the communication in the cockpit and the cabin. The last button on this row is the most important in this for troubleshooting on this head panel and commonly gets pressed. There is an emergency setting. So you come in and this is pushed down inadvertently. Now you can hear yourself talk and you think everything's great, but you can't hear anybody else in the aircraft and everybody can hear you. So it's basically a way of isolating all the noise for the pilot if they have an emergency situation to where they could just talk to themselves or ATC without distractions. So you're going to want to have this in the up position, and that's commonly gets pressed down. So if you get in there and everyone's happy and smiling or laughing at you and you don't know why, and you can hear yourself talk but nobody else, that's probably the culprit right there. So for the most part, this panel will be set up looking a little bit like this. Not something to memorize. Of course, the crews that are on and the pilots have been trained in how to set this up for you. If you ever have a question, just don't sit there, not say anything and not hear anything. It's for your safety that you hear everything that's going on up front and in the back in case we have to egress, as an emergency with the aircraft, or you're doing patient care. The last part of this we're going to cover is this panel right here. This is the drop cord. This also gets people into trouble, and mainly because of this top rocker switch here. There's a locked out position where you can't hear anything. Normal position's in the middle, and there's a press and release that'll snap back to the middle on this thing. So when you have that push to talk ICS foot switch, you might have to pull back on this while you make a transmission, but normally just check that that's in the middle. It's not in a locked position all the way one way or the other, and you should be good. There's individual volume for your headset alone right here on top of the master volume on that panel. There's a push to talk here if you have it in push to talk mode, but again, all we ever use is that center position, which just basically gives this box all the power and all the control of how you're hearing each other in the aircraft. And that's it. A lot of times these cords will go bad. This cannon plug here will wear out from all this shaking around. So you'll find that's a culprit a lot of the times. But a good knowledge of this panel right here will get you guys out of trouble 9 times out of 10.